So one of the things I talked earlier that I have a mastermind called Flight Club Mastermind, which I've been running for many, many years now. But, you know, I've been in this industry for 14 years. I only started this nearly 7 years ago. So I was around for a long time before I started this, you know, this high-end thing for very advanced online entrepreneurs. But let me take a step back of why I was always so passionate and why I'm so passionate now about helping like the people watching this movie to not just start an online business, succeed in the business, take it to the next level, and then obviously even a higher level and completely change their life. Like all of us in this movie have done, you know, it's not unattainable. That's what I just can't stress that enough. Like if me, 40 years old, no knowledge of the internet, can't type, no technical ability whatsoever, there was no tools around, I was able to do it. Anyone can do it. So one of the main reasons I moved to the US is I realized from Australia, so to be successful in business or anything really, you find other people that are already succeeding or like-minded and you surround yourself with them. It makes sense, right? So I fortunately understood that. So we moved out here to the US. Very quickly, we went to a big live event and met a lot of people. It was an amazing teacher called Frank Kern was my first teacher. And it was an event of his and, you know, we were the new kids, but we met a few people. And at that event, he announced a mastermind he was doing. We're like, oh, geez, we're probably not experienced enough. And it was something like $30-something thousand a year. Like, that was like, we were like living on credit cards, had mortgage and cars and business back in Australia. Like we couldn't afford $10,000, $2,000, never alone. But what did we do? Got out of our comfort zone, really couldn't afford it. It was like a payment thing and joined this mastermind. Now, why? Because we knew, and I never forget, my wife at the time said, I'm like, well, we can't afford it, obviously. She said, this is why we're here. And I went, this is why we're here, we're joining. And off she went. I was like, and I can't tell you how many times I thanked her for that. It did a few things. It forced us, okay, well, we spent all this money, we've got to make this work. So we really leveraged and made sure we connected with everybody. And Frank was the leader of the group. So we were living in San Diego where he was at the time. So that was an advantage. We got to be in the right circles. Why am I saying that? From then, we had huge success. Partly, big part was being in that mastermind, but again, being with like-minded people. So what did I do then? I just become a mastermind junkie. And for years and years and years, no one went to more masterminds than me. I started running my own like once a year for all my affiliates actually, right? I'd run competitions on who sent me the most people, the most eyeballs in the product launches I was talking about. I'd do these big parties, I'd run masterminds. And why? To connect with people, brainstorm, be around like-minded people even more. So again, reluctantly, years later, people would say, why don't you start like a regular high-end masterminds? They're fairly common in this industry if you don't know that. In the online world, there's a lot of different styles of masterminds, small, big, different. But quite a few people kind of pressured me. Why don't you start one? You know, you've got, you know, so many high-end, like, you know, really successful people. I'm like, and you know, you're always, even at that level, you're a bit insecure about, will people pay me a lot of money to do this? Like, and I was insecure about it. So about 6-7 years ago now, I decided, okay. So I did that and I realized at the time I was in 4 masterminds, 3 paid, that I went to regularly. Like, it's crazy. I couldn't implement all the information being in all those masterminds, but I just loved it. So I thought, okay. So I started my own, and it's called Flight Club, as I said. And what I did was, I went, okay, my main agenda that kind of pushed me over the edge was, I know when I get together with all my entrepreneur affiliate friends that live all over the world, all over the country, every time we get together, we talk and we brainstorm. Oh my God, you're doing that? Why didn't you tell me that? And see, these are people that I could call at any time. But we don't. We don't do this. And I realized to force myself primarily to be with my peers and like-minded people more, I'll start a mastermind. It wasn't about the money that I could make. It really wasn't. It was about forcing me to be in this environment that I'm talking about much more often, forming my own community. So I've had Flight Club for years now, as I said. I'm still in another one as well. I still go to others. I still love that. But I realized the power of that. So what I set out to do was, in my opinion, create the best one in the industry. So I took from, the best ones that I thought were the tactics and strategies, and the most fun, exciting, adventurous ones, and the ones that are the most networking. Now, all of those masterminds are good. They're really good at that, though. They're really good at that. They're really good at that. And I thought, what if I could combine them and make it a little bit more intimate and make it really fun? So it's really cool, though. Years later, people have said to me, members have said to me, do you know what Flight Club is? It's a combination of this one for tactics, this one for networking, and this one for fun. And I'm like, well, that's great to hear, because I'd never even told anyone that. That's what I created. So it is really, personal development, as I said when we started the business, has always been a big passion of mine. But what I realized quite a few years ago now, if I was honest to myself, my only passion above that was still changing people, helping people, changing people's lives, but with business and marketing. And that's why way back then I decided to start Abundant Entrepreneur with Sabrina, because we went, people need this. And then I realized how much I loved it. Because, I'm not the personal development teacher. I'm the business marketing guy, always behind the scenes, as I said earlier, because I was scared of it. But I realized very quickly that mentoring people, helping people start their business, creating trainings was really get my juices flow. So now we have the luxury, we have Abundant Entrepreneur for very beginners, we have JV Hacking with all kinds of training, teaching people about affiliates. So really for people that are starting out, ascends to a level of more sophisticated business people with automated systems and all this kind of thing. But then, what I would say at the top of that tier, I have a business where I get to brainstorm and network with people like me. I mean, lots of people in my group make way more money than I do, or way more successful than I am, and way better at certain things than I am. So that's what a real mastermind is, in my opinion. It's like-minded people coming together to collaborate. So in Flight Club, we have members, doing over $100 million. We've got lots of members doing the tens of millions of dollars, lots of people in the millions of dollars. But, in the lower millions, we're still talking about millions of dollars, right? It's crazy when I say that now. But, we have lots of them that come no matter where they are, how successful they are, and they get that great tip, that great strategy, make that great relationship. I can't tell you how many members I've got. Oh, I implemented that one thing that you taught at the last event and I made $300,000. You're like, what? Oh, that thing that Mike Filsame presented a year ago, I now added $300,000 to my bottom line of my business. Just mind blowing. So the power of masterminds, like I said, if you're really a beginner starting out, for instance, Flight Club's not for you. That's not the mastermind you're looking for, but find a mastermind. Like-minded people, like I said, sure, that are a little bit higher level so you can learn from, but I can't endorse masterminding and being around like-minded people enough, because the success stories are just tenfold. Look at my success story from the first mastermind I was in. I had my first $1 million year. It's insane, because I took the risk and spent $30,000, which was more money than I could even imagine at the time. Well, now more than ever, I think, post-pandemic, it's I think, every single person pretty much knows what online means, knows what online marketing maybe means, certainly knows what an influencer is. A couple of years ago, what? An influencer what? Someone posts things on Instagram and makes money? I think through necessity, It's like every single person, I was saying earlier, I'm not technical. Well, I wouldn't do a Zoom meeting with people. Like I might have one-on-one, but these Zoom, with groups of people and doing these live events, like it's just become not just mainstream, but just part of everyone's life. So it's like, people's mothers and grandmothers and people that if you tried to explain, if you said, oh, I've got a business online, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. Oh, you must have build websites. But now I think they know what I mean, which is so amazing. You guys are doing this movie right now. It's so timely. I think couldn't have been more perfect timing in history to actually get this information out here now, because I think more than ever, like I said in history, people, if they didn't know about the online world and business and they're in other businesses, they're like, oh, everyone they know that was in the online world over the last year and a half, pretty much everyone I've known, either did okay, maybe dropped a bit, or went through the roof, depending on what market they were in. Now, what other business can you say that about? I mean, it's been horrific what's happened. But I can't tell you every day, even with my team, my staff, even in the beginning, everyone was scared they're going to lose their job. And I was like, guys, you don't know how lucky we are. Every one of your friends that doesn't work for an online company is scared out of their mind now because they're probably going to lose their job. So it's like, I think people have realized, whether they have a business or maybe they work for somebody, maybe I should start to do something. What if something like this happens again? We could have never anticipated this happening, but lots of things can happen. There can be a major recession and you lose your job. That's nothing to do with the pandemic. And I think people are realizing more than ever, you're not secure ever in your job. People take a job because they think it's secure. So what's secure? If there's a pandemic or a downturn or some kind of recession or something happens, you are in complete control. Your boss or that company is in complete control of you. You aren't safe at all. Now, in your own business, on the other hand, well, it's hard and yeah, it's risky and you've got to really, like earlier I said, like get out of your comfort zone and do things. But let's be honest, at least you control it. And with the right tools, a little bit of training, I know you can do this. How else do you gain control of your life? And I think that's the point. People more than ever realize that now. And again, like maybe I'm a little bit biased here, but to me, the only way in business to have something sustainable, potentially recession-proof, I'm not saying it is, all niches are recession-proof, it's the online world. Like I built Mind Movies. When I was talking about earlier, the big launch that I did and, reached 8,000 customers, reached 80,000 people. Well, more than that, but that was the week that the entire world was falling apart. The actual week. The stock exchange collapsed, real estate collapsed, banks collapsed. I didn't even know about it. Why? Because we're in a section of people that are online that were, wanting to learn about mindset. It was kind of nothing. Now, that should have affected, if you're in a financial market, different markets, it may have affected it. But I remember back then, and I remember in the pandemic going, every other business I've ever had, except my online companies, every single one of them would have been destroyed in the recession and would have absolutely been destroyed by the pandemic. So like I said, I'm a bit biased, but yeah. I think there's never, ever been another time. And there's never been this level of awareness.